Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar, coming up in the next 30 minutes. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte joins Europe's top leaders as an emergency meeting is being held in Paris on the US efforts to find an end to the war in Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Saudi Arabia to meet Russian officials in an effort to seek an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. Big boost in India's exports for January. It's estimated at $70.67 billion US dollars. There's heightened security in Paris as the French President Emmanuel Macron is set to host European leaders, including the British Prime Minister, on Monday. This is for an emergency summit on the Ukraine conflict. The French presidency announced that the meeting is to take place at 1500 hours GMT at the Élysée Palace. The acceleration in Ukraine diplomacy means that Europe needs to do more in a better way. This is what the French presidency, an official close to the meeting, has said ahead of this meeting. Now, also attending this emergency meeting is going to be the leaders of Spain and the Netherlands and Denmark. They are representing the Baltic and the Scandinavian countries. But along with them will be the European Union leadership and the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Meanwhile, Macron held a phone call on a Sunday with the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This is in which he has discussed Saudi Arabia's role in any peace deal, but how Europe should play a key part as well. Now, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has offered to send British peacekeeping troops to Ukraine if needed, hours before the European leaders were set to meet in Paris on the Ukraine conflict. Starmer said that he had not taken the decision to consider putting British servicemen and women in harm's way, but to secure a lasting peace in Ukraine. He said that's essential. Starmer's comments were the first time that he had said that he's considering deploying British peacekeepers to Ukraine. He has previously said that Britain was willing to help play a part in any peace deal that is negotiated. In a major diplomatic development, the US President Donald Trump has indicated that he could meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin very soon. However, no official date has been set for the meeting. Let's look at this report.
US President Donald Trump said Sunday he could meet very soon with Vladimir Putin, adding he believes his Russian counterpart genuinely wants to stop fighting in Ukraine. This was after Secretary of State Marco Rubio sought to play down expectations of upcoming high-level talks in Riyadh on ending the conflict.
On your timing of your meeting with Putin in Saudi Arabia?
No, with no time set, but it could be very soon.
Like this month?
Well,
or?
It'll be soon. We'll see what happens. But they're meeting right now, and that's more. I mean, this should have been done 4 years ago, 3 years ago, before it started.
Rubio further sought to assuage European and Ukrainian fear that they would be shut off from the peace negotiations. He said Ukraine and Europe would be part of any real negotiations. Rubio gave enough hints to suggest that the US talks with Russia were preliminary in nature and were a chance to, in fact, judge if Russian President Vladimir Putin is indeed serious about peace. Trump said his team has been speaking long and hard with Russian officials. Trump held a call with Putin on Wednesday.
I think he wants to stop fighting. I see that. We spoke long and hard. Steve Witkoff was with him for a very extended period, like about 3 hours. I think he wants to stop fighting.
Trump further added that Zelensky would be involved in the conversations to end the conflict.
Do you expect Zelensky to be involved in these conversations? What will his role be?
I do. He will be involved, yes.
European leaders have been left shocked and stumped by the US president's moves on Ukraine, Russia, and European defense in recent days. They fear Trump will attempt to ink a Ukraine peace deal that undermines broader European continental security. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky held discussions with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at a meeting in Abu Dhabi on Monday. During this meeting, the President reaffirmed the UAE's commitment to support a peaceful resolution to the Ukraine conflict. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Saudi Arabia for talks aimed at ending the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Rubio met with the Saudi Foreign Minister in Riyadh ahead of peace talks with Russian officials on Tuesday. U.S. top diplomat Rubio, who spoke by phone with his Russian counterpart Lavrov on Saturday, will in fact meet the Russian officials. This is going to be on Saudi Arabian soil alongside Trump's national security advisor Mike Waltz and also the White House Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. They're all part of this meeting. The U.S. top diplomat Marco Rubio and the Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu, they presented a united front on their approach to Hamas and Israel as the new Secretary of State who is in Israel. This was the first leg of his West Asia tour. Netanyahu, meanwhile, has vowed to finish the job against Iran with the support of the U.S. President Donald Trump. Let's look at the report.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, praising Trump as Israel's greatest ally. They discussed countering Iran and achieving objectives in Gaza, including eliminating Hamas and ensuring the release of hostages.
I told Bibi, you do whatever you want because, my statement was they got to come back. Now, the reason I made that statement because they said they weren't going to deliver, they were not going to deliver the people that they said they were going to deliver, that they agreed to deliver. And they did agree to do that, but they broke that agreement. When I made the statement, they delivered everybody plus an American. Now, the good news is they look like they're in pretty good shape because the people from the week before didn't look like they were in good shape.
Netanyahu said Israel and the U.S. share a common strategy on Gaza's future and hailed President Donald Trump's plan.
Why not give Gazans a choice? Everybody said this is the largest open-air prison in the world. Not because of us. We let people leave. In fact, if you want to know, over the last couple of years, 2 years I think, 150,000 Gazans left. You know how they left? Because they bribed their way out, not to us. They bribed their way out. We will not allow Syria to be used again as a staging ground for attacks against Israel. Now, all this has been done to date, but of course there remains a principal problem, and that problem is the source of all these attacks against us, all this aggression against us, and that source is one country. It's Iran.
Rubio went on to accuse Tehran of being behind every act of violence and everything that threatens peace and stability in the region.
The common theme in all of these challenges is Iran. It is the single greatest source of instability in the region. Behind every terrorist group, behind every act of violence, behind every destabilizing activity, behind everything that threatens peace and stability for the millions of people who call this region home, is Iran. And by Iran, I mean the Ayatollahs. By Iran, I mean its regime. A regime who, by the way, its people don't support. The people of Iran are victims of that regime.
The meeting comes a day after 3 Israeli hostages were released by Hamas and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and detainees were released by Israel as part of a U.S.-mediated ceasefire agreement. Trump's West Asia envoy, Steve Witkoff, said that the talks on Phase 2 of Israel-Hamas truce will continue this week. Israeli negotiators would travel to Cairo on Monday to discuss continuing the first phase of the ceasefire deal. Israel's Security Cabinet would also meet on Monday to discuss the second phase of the ceasefire deal. Bureau Report, DD India.
Chaos and uncertainty have gripped the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as M23 rebels backed by Rwanda seized control of one more key city, Bukavu. This happened on Sunday, and this marks another devastating step in the ongoing conflict that has already claimed thousands of lives in the region. Here's a detailed report.
After weeks of advancing, M23 forces have seized control of Bukavu, South Kivu's capital, with little resistance from retreating Congolese troops. The rebel group is consolidating its position, and with Bukavu's fall, M23 now controls key areas around Lake Kivu, including Goma. The involvement of troops from Rwanda and Burundi has further escalated the already volatile situation.
We are all very, very concerned about an open regional war over Eastern DRC. And this, we reiterated the need for caution and the need for M23 and its supporters to disarm and withdraw from the Goma airport and other occupied territories.
The withdrawal of Congolese troops from Bukavu has caused a power vacuum, sparking looting and violence. While some locals see M23 as a stabilizing force, their advance raises concerns over further instability and human rights violations. The involvement of neighboring troops has heightened fears of a wider regional war, fueled by long-standing tensions dating back to the 1990s Rwandan genocide. The international community urges de-escalation, with the African Union and the UN warning of catastrophic consequences from a wider war. The UN estimates 350,000 displaced people, with thousands fleeing into neighboring Burundi, where authorities are struggling to accommodate the influx of refugees.
This new escalation should not become an open conflict that will disrupt and impact on humanitarian activities and the already very weakened social fabric in the region. The only way to solve the problem in Eastern DRC is for all parties to sit around the table.
The conflict with M23 has lasted more than 3 years, with Kinshasa accusing Kigali of wanting to control the mining and trade of minerals used in batteries and electronic equipments, and also of trying to appropriate land for agriculture, and it has but heightened fears of a breakup of DR Congo. With Aarti Rana's report, DT India.
A delegation from the Taliban government visited Japan for the first time on Monday, marking a rare diplomatic trip outside the region. According to Japan's public broadcaster NHK, the Afghan delegation plans to exchange views with Japanese government officials during their stay. The delegation left Kabul on Saturday for a visit expected to last 1 week, with officials from the ministries of higher education, foreign affairs and economy taking part. The Taliban government frequently makes visits to neighboring and regional countries, including those in Central Asia, Russia and China. Sri Lanka's President Anura Kumara Dissanayake announced his country's budget for 2025, focusing on economic recovery, fiscal discipline and social welfare. The government targets a 5% GDP growth rate, aiming to stabilize the country after the 2022 financial crisis. Sri Lanka is aiming for tax revenues of about 4,590 billion rupees, which is equivalent to about 13.9% of its GDP. This is in 2025. Up from 3,705 billion rupees, which was about 12.3% in 2024. And during his speech, Dissanayake said that no new taxes were proposed in the budget, while significant revenue gains were anticipated from liberalization of motor vehicle imports effective from this month. With Sri Lanka still recovering from its 2022 financial crisis, the speech has mentioned that a structured plan will be prepared to resume debt repayments by 2028, which includes negotiating with international creditors to restructure the obligations. Still to come here on DD India Live. India's Finance Minister Sitharaman engages with industry stakeholders in Mumbai. And Bastar in Chhattisgarh in central India is seeing a future free of naxalism.
Prasar Bharati, in collaboration with IIT Delhi and Software Technology Parks of India, is organizing the DD Robocon 2025 this year as well. In this National Robotic Championship, engineering students will get ample opportunities to showcase their ingenuity and potential. The national selection for this championship will be held on the 12th and 13th of July, and the winning team will get an opportunity to participate in the International ABU Robocon Championship to be held in Mongolia in August this year. So, hurry up! The last date of registration is the 16th of February. For more information, log on to www.ddrobocon.iitd.ac.in.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, India's total exports for January witnessed a massive jump. It stood at $70.67 billion US, registering a positive growth of about 1% over December. Now, merchandise exports in January stood at $36.43 billion US. The Commerce Secretary Sunil Bhartwal has said that with the average export of $70 to $75 billion monthly, India's exports will exceed $800 billion annually in 2025-26. And the month of January, in fact, the electronics exports has seen a jump of about about 79%, while pharmaceutical exports were up about 21.46%. Gems and jewelry exports were also up by about 15.9%. This is despite the stiff tariff retaliations. Now, India's Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Nirmala Sitharaman, she launched the Mutual Credit Guarantee Scheme for MSMEs in Mumbai. The Finance Minister said that this will boost the MSMEs, which were focused on the last three budgets. This was the focus of her last three budgets, the MSME segment. The scheme will facilitate the loans of up to 100 crore rupees. 100 crore rupees is equal to 1 billion rupees. And this is to the MSMEs for purchase of machinery or equivalent without collateral.
Given a government guaranteed loan up to 100 crores, 60% of which will be guaranteed. So there are immense lot of steps taken over the last few years, but this year particularly the extent to which government guarantee also goes to strengthen it will make a big difference to MSMEs.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman engaged in a post-budget discussion with industry stakeholders in Mumbai on Monday, and during this interaction, she emphasized the government's focus on maintaining robust public infrastructure and expenditure alongside capital and asset building. As a result, the CapEx, or the capital expenditure, has seen an increase compared to the previous budget. Minister Sitharaman also discussed the tax concessions.
That the government's emphasis since post-COVID to put money for public expenditure in capital building, asset building continues. And that is why this time the CapEx shown in the budget compared to last year is at least 10.2% more, meaning 11.11 lakh crores was in the July budget, starting from the vote on account budget for the year 24-25.
And the minister also discussed tax concessions provided to the people of India. She expressed gratitude to Prime Minister Modi for his consideration towards taxpayers. She highlighted the government's shift in focus towards boosting consumption.
The tax concession which has been given in this budget, and I thank Honorable Prime Minister for being absolutely considerate about taxpayer and rewarding the taxpayer. And on that score, it was readily agreed by him that we should give relief up to 12 lakh rupees of annual income. And that is why today we are able to say that that probably is giving a picture that we are giving a shifted emphasis for consumption boosting rather than for capital asset building, which has been the feature all the while.
Bastar district in the central Indian state of Chhattisgarh was once gripped by the fear of Naxal insurgents. Now, things are different. It's scripting a chapter of transformation. The combined strategy of both the central and the state governments over decades, in fact, along with intensified operations by the security forces, have shaken the foundations of Naxalism, as Somesh Patel reports.
Security forces in Bastar are relentlessly striking against Naxal insurgents. As a result, in 2024 and the early months of 2025, they have achieved significant success. According to data, in the past 13 months, 305 Naxals have been killed, 1,177 have been arrested, and 985 have surrendered. In Chhattisgarh, within the first 40 days of this year alone, 87 Naxals have been eliminated in encounters, with 71 of them falling in the Bastar region. India's Home Minister Amit Shah has also stated that Naxalism in Chhattisgarh will be completely eradicated by March 31st, 2026.
नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने तय किया है कि इस नक्सलवाद को और नक्सलवाद के विचार को दोनों को मूल समेत हम इस देश से उखाड़ कर फेंक देंगे और शांति को प्रस्तावित करेंगे। पूरे देश में नक्सलवाद को समाप्त करने में नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार को सफलता मिली है और मैं आपके प्रदेश में कहकर आया हूं 31/3/2026 के दिन को नक्सलवाद को इस देश से आखिरी सलाम करने का समय सुनिश्चित कर दिया गया है।
The continuous operations by security forces have severely weakened Naxal organizations. Many top Naxal leaders have either been killed or have surrendered. Bastar IG Sundar Raj P has said, "We have been conducting sustained operations in Naxal-affected areas. Peace is now being restored."
In order to bring an end to left-wing extremism in Bastar region, we are implementing a comprehensive action plan. In the recent months, special forces like DRG, STF, Bastar Fighters, Cobra, CRPF, BSF, ITBP, SSB, CF and other local forces have conducted effective operations against the banned and illegal Maoist outfit. During these operations, the last 14 months we have recovered more than 300 Naxal dead bodies along with huge quantity of graded weapons like.
With the decline of Naxalism in Bastar, a new wave of development is emerging. The efforts of the government and security forces will continue, ensuring that this region moves towards complete peace and prosperity.
Bastar, once considered a stronghold of Naxalism, is now moving towards transformation. The continuous elimination a Naxal militant is a result of joint plan by the central and state government, along with all-out operation with security force. Somesh Patel, DD India, Chhattisgarh.
On Monday, the Assam police filed a first information report against the Pakistani national Ali Tawqir Sheikh and others. This is for alleged anti-India activities. This action followed a directive from the Assam State Cabinet led by the Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma. On Sunday, the Cabinet instructed the police to investigate whether Sheikh's alleged association with the Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi's wife, Elizabeth Clare Gogoi, was a British national, had any implication for national security and sovereignty. The Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi has termed the allegations against his wife as baseless. Some sports news and golf. Chile's Joaquin Niemann has shot a 7-under par final round of 65 to win the Live Golf Adelaide at the Grange Golf Club, which is in South Australia. This happened on Sunday. Niemann began the final round 3 shots behind the co-leaders, Mexican Abraham Ancer and Carlos Ortiz, and the Englishman Sam Horsfield. But 7 birdies and no bogeys saw Niemann shoot to the top of the leaderboard. He finished with a 3-under for a total of 203. That's 13 under par and 2 shots clear of Ancer and Ortiz, who both shot 1 under, 71s that is. Earlier in the International Series India edition, Niemann had finished joint third on 2 under after a level par final round with Abraham Ancer. The second leg of the 5th Khelo India Winter Games, scheduled to begin in Gulmarg in Jammu and Kashmir on February 22, has been postponed because of insufficient snowfall in the region. The new dates for the event will be announced once the weather improves and a fresh assessment is completed. Gulmarg was scheduled to hold the snow events including alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, ski mountaineering as well as snowboarding. Leh hosted the first phase of the games, in which ice events took place from January 23 to 27. That's all we have in this edition of the DD India Live. Thank you for watching. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from the mobile app. Download it by scanning the QR code, DD India mobile app. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. Thank you for watching once again. Namaskar.